Once again, good evening. Excuse me. Well, it's been quite an afternoon because today I was hacked. And it again makes you wonder, is the hacker's life so empty that they have to find this means to have sent excitement? And of course, it all comes down to a sense of control. They're controlling you. So it's been quite a while. It's been quite an afternoon. I think we're on top of things now. And fortunately, instead of something heavy for tonight, for Tales and Cocktails, I have a delightful series from a book entitled Your Guide to Not Getting Murdered by Maureen Johnson and Jay Cooper. The frontispiece is from Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Copper Beeches. It is my belief, Watson, founded upon my experience, that the lowest and vilest alleys in London do not present a more dreadful record of sin than does the smiling and beautiful countryside. And now a note to the gentle reader. It's happened. You've finally taken that dream trip to England. You have seen Big Ben, have ridden in one of London's famous black cabs, and encountered the beefeaters at the Tower of London and the ravens under their care. You have taken the Jack the Ripper tour and walked those bloody footsteps in East London. This should be enough for anyone, but perhaps not enough for you. You've decided to leave the hustle and bustle of the city to stretch your legs in the bucolic countryside of those green and pleasant lands. You've read the books and watched the shows. You know what to expect. You'll drink a pint in the sunny courtyard of a local pub. You'll wander down charming alleyways between stone cottages as they bicycle along cobblestone streets. It will be idyllic. The author respectfully suggests you put aside these fantasies. It is possible that you will find yourself in a placid and tedious little corner of England. It is just as possible that you would end up in an English murder village. You will not know you are in a murder village, as they will look like all other villages. When you arrive in Shrimpling, or Pickles in the Woods, or Wombat on Sea, or wherever it is, there will be no immediate signs of danger. This is exactly the problem. You are already in the trap. My advice, stick to urban areas. Do not go of this book and continue on with your life. If you still insist on pursuing this course of action, commit the following information to memory. It may help you remain alive, if anything can. Regretfully yours, the author. The village. The village is comprised of two major parts, the village proper and the manor just outside of it. At one time, the residents of the manor likely owned the village ground and exerted control over the villagers, and all that they produced. Fortunately, we have rid ourselves of such barbaric economic structure. You would have arrived in a rumbling carriage, or perhaps by foot, tired and sore from the journey. Perhaps today you will arrive by train, that most murdery of conveyances. Or you may come by car, wincing as it makes its way along the far too narrow country roads, the hedgerows brushing the doors as you pass. The city is behind you now. All villages are an idyll of stone cottages, cheery whitewashed storefronts, winding streets, and artfully overgrown gardens. Of course, in a murder village, Those whitewashed buildings and stone structures are a mouthful of smiling teeth that consume the unwise and the unlucky. Those chewed remains are pressed through those streets that wind and twist through the town like a gastrointestinal tract. The gardens absorb what remains. Forewarned is forearmed. Buildings and spaces. English villages follow an ancient blueprint from a simpler time when babies drank beer and everyone had a sheep. Time may march on elsewhere, but not in the village. They don't like change in the village. The village church. A village has to have a church. Those are the rules. For hundreds of years, the village church has been the center of village life and death, with emphasis on the last one. It is the biggest, grandest, highest building around. It has fonts to drown in, vaults to be sealed in, and an altar to be sacrificed on. The vicar will find your body if you venture here. The churchyard. Behind the village church, literally, the village body dump. It's full of headstones of various ages, some crooked and sinking into the earth, and some still covered in fresh stone-cutting dust. Someone's always going in at night to leave flowers or keys or letters. It's busier than the train station. Technically, you're supposed to be dead before you end up here, but villagers aren't strict about this. All right, I'm going to skip over. Where are we? We're right in here. Excuse me, I think I've gone too far. All right, the village pond. Those ducks didn't get fat on bread. And then anywhere with a vat. In English murder villages, vats exist for the express purpose of drowning people. In beer, in pickling brine, in whiskey, in jam. This is doubly true if the vat was built by 14th century monks. If anyone offers to show you their vat, say you need to get something from your car, start the engine and run them over. The constable understands this sort of thing. Tell him about the old mill. It's not where murders happen, but for some reason it's often why. The residents of the village. A village is not its buildings or its land, sadly. A village is the sum of its people. Eliminate the people and the problem is gone. Except that the problem is largely the elimination of people. The newest resident. They don't know the old ways and refuse to learn. They want to open up a yoga and sound healings two-listed thatched cottage. They're talking to you because no one else will talk to them. They'll be dead soon enough. The oldest resident. They're the hardest to kill for a reason. The publican. We brew our own. Would you care to see our vat? The village gossip. You won't believe what I just saw. Fiona was at the pub and, just a moment, there's someone at right back Coming! Dum-ba-dum-bum. Excuse me, all right, the village constable. We haven't had a murder in the village since, oh dear, there's been another one. The gardener. The roses are perfect because of all the people under them. Oh, come on. Turn properly. All right. The person who opens the door and says, well, they were right. Okay, 45. Ah, come on. There we are. Cricket. What a lovely English pastime. A sport where the players wear nice white sweaters, the matches go on for 5 days, and everyone drinks large quantities of tea and gin. The terminology: pudding, bunny, teapot, lollipop. Just a lovely civilized time, with players running around a squishy green field with paddle-shaped bats, whacking a rock-hard ball, thinking about how much they resent their teammates. The highest trophy in the cricketing world is literally an urn full of ashes. So you can't pretend you weren't warned. Harvest season. The villagers are proud of their local cider, and rightly so. It's the soil around these parts, you see, and the apple trees of the orchard must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of, you'll do. Funerals. There are a lot of these. They may seem safe because the death has already happened, but there is a, since we've already dug a hole, spirit about these events. Locals have learned to economize. And now we're into the house. Yeah. Rooms and architecture. No one drop a bust or vase on you here, and there is nowhere lower to go. It must be safe. Wait. Who turned the lights out? Was this wall here a minute ago? Is this some kind of vault? Hello? Can anyone hear me? The kitchen? No. Knives. The pantry. You must try the honey. It's produced by the manor's very own bees. The bees. And goodness they have given us. We must go and thank the bees. I'm sorry, I'm losing my space here. I don't have the basement. Okay. The bathroom. Now we're into the manor. Tired. The 100-year-old wired the electricity to the 100-year-old plumbing that feeds the bathtub. And now we're into the residence of the manor. Marianne, the oldest child, cries a lot. What else could she do? You understand, don't you? James, Marianne's husband. Oh, I say, Marianne, there you are. The most ghastly thing has happened. I've swallowed a postage stamp. Is that illegal? I mean to say, her face, Her Majesty's face is in my tum-tum, and that means it must come out my bum-bum, and that can't be legal, can it? To have her face in that place? Uncle Henry, the patriarch's younger brother, the one who inherited nothing. He's still angry about what happened at the mill. Will have his revenge. Rupert and Peter, the twins, always out of money, spend all their time and resources on tennis, gambling, and cars. Materialize whenever cocktails are served or wills are mentioned. Everyone in the family seemed to remember something about triplets, but Rupert and Peter insist there never was a third one. Aunt Clara, top floor, takes all of her meals in her room. No one is allowed inside, not even the maid. A servant once looked through the keyhole, then ran screaming from the building and was never seen again. Occasionally emerges just after dusk to stand in the doorway of the dining room and tell everyone how they are going to die. Cousin Lucy. Oh, she's such a silly bucket, isn't she? Don't mind her. She's no one. She's me. She should have offered earlier. She'll do it right now. Oh, she stripped. Isn't that just like her? Step over her. Step on her. Wipe your feet on her. She wants you to. Oh, she's such a simple kid, such a numpkins. She's mislaid her basket of knives again. Have you seen it? Stupid, stupid Lucy. Reginald, the child, hangs out in the walls, keeps spiders in bottles, studies 19th century dental procedures, collects lithographs of major historical fires. Humphrey, a parrot. There's candy in the greenhouse, squawk. Money is under the floor of the greenhouse, squawk. Don't be afraid of the greenhouse. Frequent guests. Certain people seem to turn up at the manor more than most. They all have their reasons, none of them good. The spinster. You know, when preparing mummies, the ancient Egyptians used to remove human brains with a gadget that looked just like this crochet hook. I think the old ways are best, don't you? The colonel was in the war, you know. Isn't sure which war specifically. The private doctor. Ah, I see you broke a nail. This looks like someone needs an injection of morphine. The naturalist was last seen running into the hedge maze with a net, chasing a Licania vigarius. It's unclear what or who was chasing him. Isn't nature wonderful? I painted her at her most beautiful. Did you know she died the next day? Terrible accident. Something to do with scissors. Dreadful. So many of my subjects have died so soon after I painted them. It's just lucky, I suppose, that I captured them on canvas right before they left us. The actress. She's taking a break, has been for the last 8 years, is desperate enough to marry Roger, or if it comes to it, Humphrey. The former governess changed the nappies of every single person in the family, including Aunt Clara, so is entitled to come and stay as often as she likes, so much as she likes. This means all the time, and for a long time. Drinks sherry at breakfast, smokes cigars in her room, has a deck of dirty playing cards for playing solitaire. No one knows how old she is. Naughty orphans I had to send upstairs. The staff. Unlike regular people, the residents of the manor require others to help them perform basic tasks one simply cannot do without servants. There used to be many more, but times are hard. The ones that remain are loyal or desperate, or both. Mackenzie, the private secretary. I've served this family for 20 years. Flora, the upstairs maid. She knows what happened at the mill. Jane, the downstairs maid, is one of Penelope's 7 lovers. Her skin is faintly green, and she moves with a strange, swaying gait. Mrs. Ricketts, the housekeeper, owns this house. Snood, the gardener. Never trust anyone with a favorite shovel. Wilson, the gamekeeper, is going to get that parrot if it's the last thing he does. Mrs. Danderson, the cook. Where the hell are the knives? Chives, the butler, did it once. Manor events. The aristocracy have 3 passions: inbreeding and engaging in recreational violence. You must take care as you approach the manor itself and beware of any events in progress, especially a dynastic inheritance struggle. The shooting party. There's every chance you could wander onto the property in the middle of a shooting party. This is supposed to be a fun day, out in which some servants shake birds out of the bushes, while other servants carry and reload guns, all so that they wings. The shooting party is like a village fete. This is how the nobles weed one another out, right in the open. Always assume someone is roaming the grounds with a shotgun looking for a long-lost cousin Hugo, who just showed up and got top billing in the will. Move fast, stay low. Don't make a sound until you can make it to the door, and preferably not even then. After the East Wing collapsed on some school children back in the 80s, the villagers made such a fuss. Something had to be done. The restorations are still going on and will be going on forever, but there is no money for reparations, so they are never going on. The entire manor is held together by scaffolding covered in tapestries and child bones from the East Wing. And from that incident, small human skulls are simply perfect for hiding holes in the masonry. If only let me go back. Small human skulls are simply perfect for filling holes in the masonry. If only there were a way one could get more. The weekend house party. It's lovely to get out of the city for the weekend and play tennis, have a picnic, do a bit of riding, and commit some adultery. During the day, you'll be outside eating and generally recreating. Stairs over the tops of champagne glasses and sneaking from room to room when everyone is supposed to be asleep. What fun! Of course, no one is invited to the manor out of generosity or actual friendship. You are there to be a victim or falsely accused of murder. Enjoy your horsey ride. For when you want to be murdered, but you don't have an entire weekend to spare, this brief festival of poisons and pointy things is a case study in what people can accomplish when they have everyone around them as much as they hate, when they hate everyone around them as much as they hate themselves. Much importance is placed on seating arrangements because it's crucial to maintain the deck chairs on the Titanic mood. If you want to eat in a dark, gloomy chamber with many beady eyes trained on you, have dinner in a cave. It's safer, and the company will be more enjoyable. The open house. Come in, pause. Look around. You simply must see the East Wing. Getting there. Okay. Manor quiz. You have been invited to the manor for the night, and foolishly you have accepted. Let's see if you'll make it to the morning. And at dusk, you hear a dog bark, distant voices, and a cracking sound. Was that a shot? You decide to A, walk up the main drive toward the house. B, take a circuitous path through the gardens. C, turn around and return to the village. A, while it is risky to make yourself an easy target, it's probably best to take the drive. Be quick and zigzag along like you are running from an alligator, just to make it a little harder for them to get a good, clear shot. B, the circuitous path through the gardens. Think you are eaten by the puma in the herb garden. C, turn around and return to the village. You meet the vicar on the path. Uh-oh. 2, you make it to the front door. Chives takes your bags and directs you to the library, where the family is having a drink before dinner. What do? A, join the family for a drink. B, say that you don't need a drink and follow Chives up to the room. A, where you join the family for a drink. Bold choice. Obviously you won't consume anything. Pour your sherry into a pot of plums. If anyone mentions a will, leap out the window. B, say that you don't need a drink and follow Chives up to the room. Wisely, you avoid the family's poisoning hour. However, you unwisely opt to follow someone to an unfamiliar location. You fall through a hole in the floor, landing in a pit in the basement, which is filled with the still soft bodies of other guests. At least you won't decompose alone. 3, Lucy enters the library. Oh, she's disturbed you. Stupid Lucy, she will go at once. Unless you don't mind she stays. It's up on that high shelf. She'll use the ladder, of course, but would you mind awfully steadying it from below? Oh, she's so sorry to trouble you. How do you respond to Cousin Lucy? A, you're very sorry, but you can't. B, you'd be delighted to. A, you politely decline to hold the ladder, citing obscure religious that and goes up the ladder alone. She falls and dies. You are found standing over Lucy's body. You are arrested for murder. This is what amounts to a happy ending. B, you'd be delighted to hold the ladder. You thought you had this one, didn't you? With Lucy up the ladder, she can't knock you off. While you keep an eye on Cousin Lucy, Penelope steals up behind you. Cousin Lucy is another one of Penelope's 7 lovers. You have fallen into their trap. You are beaten to death with Volume 4 of the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary Greenhouse for research purposes. 4. Reginald, the child, emerges from an 18th century chest in the hall by the study. He offers you his small, clammy hand. He wants to show you his mice. Do you A, take his hand and go with him to look at the mice? B, politely refuse and continue on your way? Shove him forcefully back down into the chest and lock it. A, will you take his hand to go with him to look at the mice? Don't look at things. How many times must this be repeated? Do you know how long it takes 40 mice to eat a human adult? You're about to find out. B, will you politely refuse and continue on your way? Reginald does not take rejection well. Do you know how long it takes a human child to eat a human adult? C, where you shove him forcefully back down into the chest and lock it. Now you're getting it. 5, you're resting in your room when Aunt Clara slides out from under your bed, whispers something in Latin, and crooks her finger, indicated you should follow her. By the time you get down to the floor, she's gone. In her place is a sliding trap door, partially open. It leads to a crawl space. Do you follow her? A, of course not. A, will you follow her? No. You remain in bed, smug, reading your book, congratulating yourself on avoiding the danger until the snakes come. B, it's clear that Aunt Clara knows something, and the first and primary rule is that you never associate with people who know things. Throwing someone into a crawl space is a bad idea, generally. But Aunt Clara has survived in this house for a long time. She knows what's what. You slide down into the musty crawl space and follow her crab-like form as she makes her way between the floors. You drop down into an empty wall cavity behind the family portrait gallery. From there, you peer out through the eye holes and watch as Marianne kills Roger with a dagger and shoves his body up the chimney. Aunt Clara looks at you reassuringly and smiles. You have an ally. She will help you escape. She is covered in snakes. Oh, God, no, not the snakes. Not the snakes. Oh, well. Final thoughts. A few final thoughts before concluding this volume. Wills. Often given what you have learned, you may be tempted to make out your will before you go on your trip. Do not do this. The residents can sniff out a fresh will like a pig sniffs out truffle. Residents are not likely mentioned in your will. The scent brings out a murderous impulse. The moment you step into the village, they will have you on a pike, and they won't know why. Let your relatives fight over your collection of meerschaum pipes, if it comes to that. Accommodations. It is usual to make lodging arrangements in advance. You must not do this. No one can know you are coming. That gives them time to plan. Ideally, if you can, remain awake and moving during the entirety of your stay. If you must rest, try to find a hollow log or disused shed. Sleep during the day in short bursts. If you insist on staying at the local inn, pay with a credit card and make it known in an abnormally loud voice that lots of people know where you are and are expecting you to come back. Push furniture against the door. Close the curtains. Pry some floorboards up beneath the bed and burrow. Worry. Dining. One must eat while traveling, which is a pity. Try to hold off consider you're at the manor. Fill up on non-food items such as paper, leaves, or grass. Drink from puddles or catch rain in your hat. Certainly you must pretend to eat and drink because the locals will soon sense something is wrong if you eat all the newspapers or lap up puddles in the streets. They will kill you just for being weird. Guidebooks. Whatever you do, do not allow a guidebook to lull you into a false sense of security, especially one that advertises itself as a way of avoiding the deadly pitfalls of an English murder. While you've got your nose buried in a book, someone could be sneaking up behind you. Perhaps someone who wrote a book enumerating the various ways you could be murdered in an English murder village. Someone who gave you fair warning at the beginning and told you to heed its advice and dispose of this book. Someone who filled the book with amusing pictures that would make it all seem like a delightful wheeze, ensuring you would pay no mind at the sound of the door creaking open and the footsteps behind. Go ahead, turn around and say, "Oh, it's you." Thank you, Liz Forrest. This has been just a delight. There are more, and perhaps another time I'll get to those I did not read tonight. But it is just a joy. Your guide to not being murdered in a quaint English village. Whew, that was joyful. And after all that brouhaha today with the hacker, this has lifted my view. Anyway, that is Tales and Cocktails for tonight. And I've enjoyed it. I hope you've really found it fun. Everybody, good night. And I will see you next week for Tales and Cocktails.